Hello everyone. This is Paulo Cesar Ramirez from a startup called Emprende, and we are now hosting this live event called Sustainable Mayan InverTour, Virtual SMI or Virtual Sustainable Mayan InverTour. We have two great guests for today. Karen, by the way, Karen, please help me. How do I pronounce your name? Because it is Pesce?
Pesse.
Pesse. Karen de Souza Pesse. She is
Exatamente.
actually originally from Brazil, but now she lives in Belgium. And here we have also Massimo Mercuri. He is a Mexican Italian, and it is really interesting with him because the other day I asked him, "But Massimo, do you really consider yourself Mexican?" And he said, "Well, I was born in Italy, but if you mean that I get mad if someone talk bad about Mexico, yes, I am Mexican." And I said, "Well, like, yes, that is the thing. I want to, I get to know that you feel really Mexican also." And he is actually based in Amsterdam. And now I'm going to make just a few quick announcement in Spanish because some people maybe are hoping that we are going to have some translation. So right now I'm just to make a quick announcement in Spanish. Hola, hola, buenos días para todos los que nos están conectando y que están escuchando ahora este mensaje en español. Aquí en Teams, en la parte de arriba, en los tres puntitos que tienen justo al lado donde se activa su cámara, ahí ustedes pueden ver la parte donde se activan los subtítulos. Ahorita tenemos una situación de que no los podemos estar traduciendo en tiempo real, pero pueden poner los subtítulos. De tal manera que vamos a hacer un diálogo muy tranquilo. Vamos a estar procurando tener la mejor dicción posible para que sí puedan sacar el mayor provecho a esta charla. Entonces, en los tres puntitos a un lado de la cámara, ahí está la opción de activar los subtítulos. Muy bien. Well, for everyone else, also you can activate the subtitles in the three dots, just one side of the icon of the camera. Then you click on that option, and then you go down into the menu, and there is an option that says activate closed caption. And with that, you can also have a better understanding of what we're going to talk about here in this session. And well, just to start with this, we're going to start with the point of this is as follows. With the pandemic, especially with the startup world, with entrepreneurs, with social responsibility, there has been all these kind of silos, and which means that people just looking at one part of the story and trying to change the world for good. And that is great, obviously. That is hugely amazing. That is a big effort. But what we are trying to do with this kind of projects, it is to include a lot of systems thinking, a lot of to see the whole rather than the parts, and to see how everything it is interconnected. And right now, what we are seeing through also with the pandemic, it is that, for example, if you guys want to get mad at something that is happening with society, with the world, and with other people, and so on, it is really easy. Because right now, we are living in a time when if you want to feel divided, if you want to feel angry with others, just go to your social media feed, just go to the news, and you'll find a lot, and I mean a lot of reasons to feel angry about many things. So what we are trying to do with this kind of event, this virtual event, it is to have a good vibe, to think about convergence and unity for this new era, for this post-pandemic era. We need to look upon our similarities rather than our differences. We need to be able to see again the whole. We need to see again how everything is interconnected. We need to be able to see things that not many people are able to see them as part of one same thing, which is, for example, entrepreneurship, but also it is part of sustainability, and also it is part of culture, also it is part of nature, also it is part of our health. And so maybe it appears like there are so many topics just in one, but yes, with the pandemic, for example, we people that like to do a lot of things, we know now that if we don't have a good health, then we don't have time. If we don't have time or health, that we cannot do anything. So first, we need to take care a lot about our health. We need to take care about our environment. We need to take care about the people. And that is why we are going to have these discussions with these two amazing, amazing, amazing professionals, great friends. Both of them are not only just great professionals, they have amazing stories. They have amazing journey in life. They have many stories to share with us. And that is the purpose also, maybe just to have this small group of people learning together and trying to maybe just have a little bit a better understanding of the world and to get inspired also by this session. Well, welcome everyone. Again, if you want to activate the closed captions option, it is on the three dots just on the left of the camera icon in the upper part of your screen. And again, a small message in Spanish. Si nos estás escuchando en español y tienes algún problemita con el idioma, por favor, en los tres puntos que están arriba en la pantalla a un lado de la cámara, le das clic ahí y en la parte de abajo aparecen los subtítulos para que puedas estar acompañándonos en esta charla. And well, we are going to start with Karen. And right now, I'm just going to stop presenting this. And I'm just going to validate right now just to see Massimo is still there. I'm going just to put only the camera for us to see. If I suddenly do this, it is because I have the other screen on our production team, just to see that we guys are all gathered here in this meeting. But I'm going to do something better. I'm going to leave this view because for us to feel like we are really united in this meeting. Okay, is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, that's perfect for me.
Great. So we are going to start. So Karen, talk about, please, a little bit about your story, your journey. You're originally from Brazil. Now you're in Belgium. How did it happen? You being in Brazil and then to say, I'm going to go to another country.
Yes, thank you, Paulo, for the introduction. So my name is Karen. I am born in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, and I have left Brazil for 7 years ago. And it all started with the decision of my profession. So I always had a lot of inspiration from people which were engineers. And I always had this vision that engineers can change the world and that engineers can do great things. And I was very interested in as well in getting to know the world, because when you come from Brazil, it's very difficult to move abroad or to go abroad even for traveling. So you really grow up in Brazil, and sometimes you travel to nearby cities, but you stay there. And I really wanted to explore the world. So I joined university with this mindset, changing the world and visiting it as well. And one of the things that I realized while I was in university is that because of my socio-economical situation and actually the whole situation that the country was at the time, it was going to be very difficult for me, even if as an engineer, to achieve what I wanted in the near future. And by near future, I'm talking about the next 5 to 10 years, which was actually not even that near. That's when I realized that perhaps I could already try to go abroad while I was studying. And one of my biggest difficulties is that I could almost not speak any English. So what I did is I studied specifically for the English exam, for the TOEFL tests or the IELTS, depending on which university you go to. And I got the bare minimum to be accepted in a university. I was accepted for a scholarship in London, and I moved to England without speaking English very well. It was very difficult in the beginning, but because I was in university, there was really a lot of room for failure and learning. And after 1 year of this full immersion, which I cannot say it was easy, it was rather painful, I managed to learn how to speak English. And actually, when I moved to the UK, it was my first time in Europe. It was like realizing a dream. And I really enjoyed it in here. So I decided I wanted to stay somehow. And okay, so how am I going to do that? I I needed a sponsorship, a visa. There were a lot of constraints. So basically what I did is I started to email a lot of universities, a lot of professors. I already had a relatively good CV because I have worked during my education. And I would say, hey, I'm interested in working in your lab. I'm interested in your research. Would you be willing to talk to me? And then whenever a researcher would reply back, yes, absolutely, I would travel, I would go to the country, I would visit, and I would also do some networking. And after doing that, I would say that I contacted around 200 to 300 organizations and professors, people, and I got a reply of around 30. So the success rate is rather small. If you are thinking about doing that, you really need to do in a large quantity to increase your chances. But the 30, 35 that replied, they were all very positive, and a lot of them opened doors for me to stay in Europe. And that's how I started, that's how I moved to Belgium eventually, because I found someone that was very much willing to be a holding hand for me. I arrived in Belgium. It was quite difficult because I arrived here with less than 200 euros, which is basically not enough to pay half of your rent for the first month. And I got a job as a bartender, as a waitress, while I was studying my master's in engineering. I remember at some point when I was working at the bar, someone came to me and asked, "Don't you want anything better for you than working in a bar?" Which I thought it was very, I was very concerned about this question. First of all, because there is no problem if you only want to work in a bar for your whole life. But I, I said to this person, well, I am building my life. I am here by myself. I arrived with no money and I don't have enough from my parents. So I have to work while I'm studying engineering. And that's the first time that I was really faced with the unconscious bias. Sorry. The unconscious bias is basically generalization or thinking that you know things without really having a context. Or, for example, when you like someone because this person has some relationship with you, for example, coming from the same city or being from the same region. So you think this person is better. And if it's someone which is a foreigner, you're going to think that this person is worse, for example. This is something that eventually I studied quite a lot, and unconscious bias comes back really a lot in data, which is something that I have quite a bit of work. But going back to the story, and I'll make a bridge to the data part later, I managed to get an internship in Belgium. I also got a work placement in Japan. So I went to Japan for a few months. I came back to Belgium and I got an official job. And I have been working ever since here in Belgium, but in very international projects. So I would say that within these years that I worked in Belgium, I was in several different countries. I worked in Switzerland, I worked in Spain, I even went to the United States for a short education in MIT and in Harvard. So it was very enriching, and I consider myself very lucky for the career that I built. And I have always been in corporations. I first joined IBM. Now I am in Microsoft. But one of the things that I always felt like it was missing a bit was the entrepreneurial part that I had of starting something. So at some point, I used to help people. I used to help anyone with a migration background to get opportunities in Belgium. And I realized that I could make this some kind of entrepreneurial project. So I launched a movement, and then an organization, and then a network. And we are already almost 40 people now, which are helping others in Belgium, and we are hoping to expand to Europe, helping people with a migration background, which are people of color or Hispanics, Latin Americans, Asians, to break through in Europe and to manage to be successful here. And doing that, I kind of satisfied the entrepreneur that exists inside me. And right now I am working with digital transformation. I work as a digital advisor. So basically I advise governments and I advise big multinationals on data transformation, digital transformation. What are the next steps that you need to be disruptive? So I do the whole roadmap from very basic things like looking at if you have on-prem or cloud data, what are the things that you're doing with your data, how you're managing your assets, up to very transformational things like how to use digital twins for your business or how to become sustainable. And yeah, I think that was a very long introduction about myself. Paulo, I know that you have a few questions for me, so feel free to ask them.
No, but it is great. It's been such an amazing journey that you've had with your life, Karen. And one thing related to this, it is that many of young entrepreneur students, because for the audience, we have some people related with the higher ed sector, some people are related with business incubators, and for some of them, maybe they see the entrepreneurs they are working with, and they see that both language and economical and socio-economical situation, maybe it is not the best. And they may say it is really hard to think about having an international experience or calling someone and hoping that maybe I get a response from them. And maybe they think it is really difficult. But you've been through this journey. What would you advise for them, for the business incubators, for the universities, and for the young people to say, yes, try it, you can, make some calls?
So I think that we all need to acknowledge that learning languages is very difficult, but is very necessary. And actually learning niche languages is becoming less necessary in a business context because a lot of the work now is performed in English. But unfortunately, English remains a very necessary language to learn when you want to do business abroad. But one thing that I have observed throughout my career is that if you are very good in what you do, they're going to get a translator for you. So don't think that language is the thing that is going to stop you completely. It's a very good asset to have, but if you work on your core skills and you become very good at what you do, they're going to get a translator for you. So I think if I can give a piece of advice is it's going to sound very cliche, but be the best you can in the work that you're doing. Find a real problem if you are an entrepreneur, a problem that is going to be so relevant for people to be fixed that they are going to ask you They are going to make available resources for you, and then all the barriers of being in Latin America or of not speaking English properly or any other barriers that you can think of, all these barriers are easier to overcome when you spot the real problem and you find a way to fix it.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Karen. And another question is, what have been some of the greatest lessons you have learned from the pandemic? Have your professional and personal goals changed?
One of the interesting things during the pandemic is that while a lot of my friends, their jobs became redundant and they didn't have so much work, for me, it was the opposite, because I'm working a lot in digital, and during the pandemic, virtually every business had to go digital. So I would say the biggest lesson that I learned during the pandemic is that if you want to remain relevant in the future, you need to have a very strong digital core. And if organizations want to remain relevant, flexible work and remote work is going to become increasingly important. Moreover, in a few years, I would say that we're going to be able to work from many different places, because unless if you are in a very specialized environment, most of the professions you're going to be able to perform it from anywhere in the world. Even, for example, if you are a doctor and you need to perform a surgery, you will also be able to perform the surgery, you being in China and the patient being in the Amazon forest. That's how technology is evolving.
Yes, thank you. Another question is, some people have done great during the pandemic, but the majority haven't. Many are still struggling to survive, societies and countries even. Do you think the ones being left behind still have a chance to catch up with the ones that have done great? Do you see that is inequality worsening?
I definitely think that inequality worsened, for sure. And especially, I was presenting yesterday about the gender digital gap. So basically, the access of women to technology, it decreased. And if you didn't have access to technology during the pandemic, your situation decreased a lot. So I do think that there was a worsening for sure. But if you ask me if it's too late, I am going to be cliche again here and say that it's really never too late. I think that the pandemic generated a lot of opportunities, and the pandemic closed a lot of doors, for sure. But if you are able to reinvent yourself in a way, sometimes things come very quickly. So sometimes, and especially now with the concept of viral, it's easy to become viral very quickly and things change for you. So I would invite everyone here to just not give up. But sometimes it's necessary to change strategy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Another thing is in the work you do, not just in the work in Microsoft, but your personal projects, the passions that you have, is that you advocate for female leadership, for diversity and inclusion. What would be a dream you'd like to become a reality during your lifetime?
That is completely pointless to advocate for female rights and diversity and inclusion. My dream would be that at some point we reach equality, and this type of advocacy just doesn't exist anymore, or is just necessary. That is something that I would really like to achieve in my lifetime. But based on the feedback of a lot of mentors that I have that are already under 50s and under 60s, they also thought that back then when they were 20 years old, they could see this change happening in their lifetime, and they didn't. And in fact, they said that the change was very slow. So this is a wishful thinking that I have, but I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm not really expecting that I'm going to be able to achieve it, which would be a shame.
Yeah, thank you. Related with this question, it is that you being a young female from Brazil going into another country and starting your entire journey and on tech, on entrepreneurship and social responsibility and diversity issues. And there is this concept of what a family is. And you know, here in Latin America, for us in Latin America, family is a very important concept. How do you see that the concept of family, it is making progress, it is changing? What do you think is going to be family in the future? Because maybe for us in Latin America, it is a different concept, and we know that our mom or dad, our siblings, our cousins, and then we help each other, and it is a close social structure. But how do you see that the concept of family it is going to make progress with all these things that are happening right now?
I think that, and I am putting this more in the scenario of Brazil and Belgium, right? Because these are the both of the scenarios that I have more exposure. Depending on the country and depending on the majority of the religion in the country, I would say if a country is very conservative, the concept of family is going to stay relatively the one that it is now. If the country is evolving to be less religious, the concept of family is going to evolve to families which are composed by people from the same sex or for friends. So it really depends on how the geographies are working towards that. But I would say that it's really difficult to predict, because if you look at a lot of countries, they became very strict and very conservative very quickly, and other countries opened up. So it's really a concept that is constantly changing. So making a prediction of how family is going to be in the future would be very naive of me, I would say.
Great, great. Thank you, Karen. And right now, you're in this stage of your life, and that you're enjoying some of the results of hard work, but hard work for many, 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 many years. As you talked earlier, you even worked as a waitress while studying your master's degree, and now it is different. But what will you change in society so people like you and many other talented young professionals could be discovered and supported much earlier, no matter where they are from or who their parents are?
So this is something that I'm trying to achieve with the organization that I am running now. I think that, for example, a lot of jobs are going to require less and less that you have an academic diploma. You already see in a lot of tech companies that people are being hired without having a bachelor or a master's, but having the right qualifications and the right certifications. And this is, in my opinion, this is very positive, because having the proper education depends a lot more on the society and the family upbringing rather on your capacity or on your skills. So a lot of people which are very talented don't have the opportunity to have proper education and go to university. And I think it's very positive that companies are shifting towards this open mindset, that if you have developed the right skills, you are able to have nice jobs, even though you didn't have the formal path of education. Another thing that I have been actively working on is the part of minorities having a position in organizations. Because if you look at even Europe and in the United States, when I walk through the streets of Brussels, Brussels is very multicultural, very international. You have people from all sorts of backgrounds. But when you enter corporations, it's still very unicolor. It's still a majority of men. So one of the things that I'm looking for is to make the impact in the sense that everyone is going to have the same opportunity. And then indeed, by the true meritocracy, you're going to be able to achieve a higher position or not. This is something that I am very passionate about and that I really try to push, that the person which is really the best and not the person that had more opportunities in life is going to succeed.
No, thank you, Karen, because the other day, I don't know if it was with you, the one I was talking about this, but I was telling to a friend that for me, it is that society has designed the way of how young professionals uh, are growing and are achieving more and more outcomes. It is really badly designed because when we are young, when we have all the energy, when we want to conquer the world, it is when we don't have any money, we don't have any experience, we don't have access to great mentors and so on. So it is kind of a young person who wants to change the world. He takes like, I don't know, maybe 5 years to achieve something that if he or she had the right tools, maybe he or she could achieve that in 2 or maybe 3 years. But it takes a long, long time for someone young to be discovered. Will you say that in your case, you could have done much quicker your journey with the right tools since the beginning?
This is something that I ask myself very often. And I already had a lot of discussions with friends, people that are close to me. And I said, imagine if I was born with everything. If I was born in a family in which money was absolutely not a problem, I wonder if now I would already be the CEO of a major company. But the feedback that I get every single time is that these experiences shaped who I am. So I cannot say for sure that having these opportunities would have made me who I am or not, which is something conflicting. So I can never answer for sure how it would be. But what I could say is that I think that perhaps I would not have followed the same path. But people which are driven, if they're given the right tools, they are going to go for the extra mile. And what I try to focus on is giving these people the right tools so they don't have to struggle, and then see how much they can achieve.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. And another thing, it is that this pandemic showed us that even when we may think we are globally connected and well-trained individuals, we all live in our own silos, in our little worlds, in our echo chambers, and we really don't know as much as we thought. Many, many people, and all of us who have seen what many different sort of experts during the pandemic, specifically during the pandemic, making forecasts about many things. Many of them were badly, badly wrong about many forecasts of many topics. So we thought we knew some things, but we don't know as much as we may think. So SMI is a project focused on convergence, on unity, on systems thinking, rather than highly specialized topics. Why do you think it is important for leaders to have a much broader perspective about the world, about themselves, and to be able to see the whole rather than the parts, especially during these still complex times?
I think that one of the things that make you very valuable in business is when you are able to go to one industry and find a solution and then envision how the solution would look like for another industry. So this is just a very tangible example. You can be very disruptive in one industry by getting an idea that has been implemented for years in another. And you can only do that if you have been to other industries. So when you focus too much in something and you become a subject matter expert or a PhD, you are going to know a lot about the subject, which is great. And actually, I think that everyone should have this T-shaped approach to life. Know a lot about one thing, but know also a little bit about everything, because you can really bring a lot of value getting information from one place and then placing it in other. And this is just a very tangible example, but for giving a more philosophical example, if you travel and if you see things implemented in Japan, you can also bring it to your country. If you travel and you go to the United States, perhaps you discover that they have some very nice thing in their culture that you can also bring back home. If you look at a lot of our holidays, a lot of them are celebrated worldwide, and you have Chinese New Year everywhere. So these things, they can be very enriching to our society. They can bring us together, and you're only going to know about them if you travel, if you explore, if you are open to learn new things and to meet new people.
Great, thank you, Karen. By the way, for all our attendees, you can also ask a question. The chat is open, so if you want to make a question, please write it on the chat. And we still have some time, a few more minutes with Karen. Another thing related to this, Karen, it is that when we see all the things that are happening right now, we need to actually have that combination of a generalist and a specialization.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone, it is a mid-aged professional who maybe he is thinking about making a shift on the professional career, maybe someone in its early 30s, and maybe this person says, well, to learn another thing completely new, or to change for another subject, what would you advise for them? Because in the end, what this pandemic, and maybe I'm getting more philosophical here, but it is also one of the things I wanted to talk about with this kind of virtual events. It is that our lifetime is limited here, and we are going to be here just for a few decades, and that's it. Maybe someone is trying to solve death, but maybe the thing that we are going to achieve is just to extend lifetime a little bit, but not as defeating death. So in the end, we are here right now. And we've seen, thanks to the pandemic, that health, it is a very, very important topic. So what would you advise for some people that maybe are in the time of saying, what do I really want to do with my life?
So you basically ask me, if you want to change career,
Yes.
what could you do? So there are two approaches that you can take to that. You can build a new career while you're working on your current one. Or if you're really fed up and you just want to move, you can also start something completely new. But my advice for the second is that if you start something completely new, find a way to bring your value by the expertise that you had in the past. So let's say that you are an IT specialist and you want to become a violin player. I think it will take a really long time for you to build the skills that are necessary to become a violin player good enough that is going to get enough money. And I am assuming a scenario in which you don't have a buffer or extra money to rely on. You should start focusing on how to build up the skill while you are still working on the other thing. But one of the most important things for both scenarios, and more importantly for the scenario in which you do the complete shift and you just change professions completely, find also a person in the profession that you want to change which can act as a mentor or a sponsor, someone that you can partner with, someone that will teach you the tips and tricks. Today you can find these things very easily on the internet. You can go to LinkedIn and you just type what you want to do, and then you start sending messages and say, hey, I want to do a career change. Can I shadow you? Can I perhaps be like an intern? You are not going to be working very long as an intern because you already have years of experience and you already know how work works. But building up these skills, it's very important to have someone that is going to mentor you.
Great, thank you. And related to this also, Karen, because right now many people are changing their goals, their careers, their views about the world, because the pandemic has impacted in so many different ways. If you remember, when you were starting your professional career and when you were studying, not much money in another country and starting to know a lot of people, and now if we see that point A and point B, there is obviously the journey, and it took a lot of years. But some people, when they are in the starting point, in the point A, they see all the difficult part, that I don't have much money, I don't know many people, it is difficult for me, I don't see where I am going. And not many people is able to see or to have the vision of point B, when things are going to great, when things are going to be amazing, and things like that. So what would you say for people that have struggled a lot during this pandemic and they don't see how they are going to be able to get to point B, which is nice and success and happy? What would you say to them during these still hard times?
I think you should surround yourself by the right people, because there is something that they call the victim mindset, in which you are stuck in your mindset as a victim of something that happens. And it is very tough if you are in this mindset. But the toughest thing is to break through. So one of the things that you can do is surround yourself by people which are driven, who believe in change, who believe in reaching the point B, and you can try to absorb this as much as possible. Sometimes I also have this in my career. There is something that is called the imposter syndrome, and I so often have it. And what I try to do is, whenever I start to feel down and I start to doubt myself, I go to some people which I already know they're going to cheer me up, and they are going to tell me the right things. And it's important for you to be surrounded by these people, to have these that are going to say, hey, it's difficult now, but look, perhaps if you have a roadmap, in 6 months it's not going to be so difficult. Or someone which is going to say, hey, let's brainstorm on a way for you to get out of this. But I would say the biggest trick here is lies in yourself, lies in your own mindset. And if you need help to get out of this, you can either reach out to someone which is a professional. Sometimes psychological help also works, but in a very short term, and especially if you don't have money, reaching psychological help might be out of your reach. Find someone with a positive mindset that is able to get you out of this, because being in the victim mindset also consumes a lot of energy that you could have been spending to break through.
Totally. Thank you. And just a quick reminder, for example, as Karen was saying, that we can shift career, we can learn new things. By the way, as she works in Microsoft and we as a startup are supported by the Microsoft for Startups program, all the materials that Microsoft has for learning new things related with coding, with cloud computing, with artificial intelligence, and many other topics, each are amazing. All the materials that Microsoft has built are amazing. So if you say, for example, I'm going to dedicate just a few hours a week by learning something new, and then you start learning something new, when 2, 3, 4 months pass by, then you're going to actually be able to know something more. and that to do something, another thing, and that then you may get your first certification and things like that. So the possibilities are there. But yes, if you get stuck in that victim mindset, it is really, really complex. It is not recommended for anyone. Just for that also, please turn off the news. Turn off the news and sometimes your social media feed, because it is amazing all the bad things that people are putting in there. But well, a question from the audience, Nora. I hope I'm going just to read the question, if I am understanding it well. Karen, it says, could you share us a tip for employees who are working in environmental matter? What is necessary? Give complement in environmental tendencies?
So the part that I'm active is more in sustainability, and for example, how organizations can become more sustainable. I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but I think one of the biggest tips now, I already shared that organizations need to be digital. And if you have knowledge of digital sustainability, you are going to be sitting on gold in a few years, because it's something relatively new that you don't have a lot of specialists. And if you, as I explained, the T, if you know a lot about environment and a lot about sustainability, and then you manage to get this niche into digital sustainability, I think that this is something that you can be very successful in the future. So my tip for the employees working with that would be specialize in the mix between environment and digitalization.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. And a last question before we end this part with you as our guest. It is an interesting question about your inner child. What would you like to be when you grow up?
My manager recently asked me the same question. It was a bit different. He asked me what I would do if I could do anything I want. And the thing that I answered to him is that I would like to do exactly what I do now, digital transformation and digital strategy, but I would like to do it for organizations which are working with human rights, or for big educational organizations like UNESCO, Amnesty International, or the UN. I would like to go more into this this type of role, and I would love to help humanity in this with the knowledge that I have developed.
Oh, thank you, Karen. And by the way, if anyone wants to reach out to you and maybe help you with your NGO or know more about your NGO or the work that you are doing, how can anyone get in contact with you or the work that you're doing?
I think the easiest way is to get in contact through LinkedIn.
Great. I'll post, I'll send you guys, the ones who are attending this session, the information about our guest speakers today, so you can follow them on LinkedIn. But if you look for the name just right now, you're going to find her. She's really famous in LinkedIn.
Actually, here my name is Karen Pesse, but on LinkedIn is Karen de Souza Pesse.
Yes. Karen, thank you very much for your time, for joining us in this fireside chat. And I hope you have enjoyed it. And thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Now we are going to talk with Massimo. Let me just set the microphone. Massimo, yes. Now there it is. There it is. Now, Massimo, just to check the audio, Massimo, maybe if you can please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, there
yes,
you are,
I'm here.
Massimo.
Okay, very good.
So the thing about this session also for everyone, it is in this really friendly way. And so Massimo, do you want just to have a conversation with Karen, or do you want to share some slides?
Well, let's do something easy, right? I just take a couple of minutes just to give a short intro. so at least people know who am I, what do I do, right? Because that's anyway necessary. I took some notes when Karen was saying some of the things, and because I'm aware of certain information that is probably surprising for some people. And I think the questions you have are pretty much the same, so we can keep it informal, you know, and so I don't like to speak for a long time because it's always interesting to hear what other people have to say.
Yes.
And but at the same time, I know that I have a bunch of stuff. So what I will do during my short intro, I will try to already answer some things that you asked. All right.
Go ahead, Massimo.
Okay, then I start with the one of the last questions that you had. Can I share the screen? Oh yeah. So share. Where do I share? Oh no, I can't share. I'm not a presenter. No? And you are muted.
Sorry, now you're a presenter, Massimo.
Okay.
Now you should be able to present. By the way, in the meantime, while Massimo is just putting his presentation, just let me tell you something. The way I knew about Massimo's story, that is the thing that I got the most attracted to this story, because Massimo used to be this global innovation executive in Fortune 500, 100 companies, but then he had to change his lifestyle because he was diagnosed with cancer. And so for many people, many of us who are are attending this session, maybe some of us love to work and love to be hyper competitive, not just crazy competitive. No, no, not hyper, but crazy competitive. We get up to work, we go to eat thinking about work, we end our day thinking about work. And I was talking to Massimo, and he said, I was
when do you have time to leave?
Yes, and he was telling that he was just like that. But then this news comes, and the doctor says to him, Massimo, you need to change completely, and completely means completely, your lifestyle, because you need to solve this big issue with your health. So what you're going to do? And Massimo changed whatever he needed to change. He's recovered from cancer, and he's doing great things related with sustainability, with the UN, with some great projects, some recognitions. And I met him on an event from Stanford University, from the Business Accelerator and Incubator in Stanford University. And I said, wow, this guy is amazing. And also a great story to share with us, and a great journey. And that is the thing that I wanted to share with you guys about the story of Massimo.
Okay, then I will skip this page because it's not necessary, which is the page from LinkedIn. But at least you people know where to find me on LinkedIn. There I am. That's my photo, and it's easy to find me. I would like to recall something that Karen said, that it's never too late to learn, and it's never too late to also to live whatever is the dream that you want to do when you grow up. Yeah. So when I was a child, I wanted to be an astronaut, but at the same time, I would have liked to be a baker, because I like bread. You know, I like bread of all kinds of types. So I realized that you cannot do everything you want to do, but you have to give a shot at interesting things. So I'm not going to go through a long story about my my career, but easy to, if you see my LinkedIn profile, you will see that I have been in innovation at Apple Computers. I've been in the pioneering of the digital wave with IBM in Latin America, also with innovation centers. When one of the crises came and many people, especially in the American continent, I think that was the crisis of 2002, 2003. You know, because there's a crisis every 5 to 7 years, right? And in that one, many people like me remained without a job. At that time, I was the director of IT for a multinational company. We were building, actually, that was the end of the dot-com bubble. And that company, we were building the power supplies to power the internet. So every single switch from Cisco that was installed during 1998 to 2003 was built in the factories that I was managing. So that was the type of business where I was. Boom, crisis arrives. People like me are completely left without a job. Yeah, and I saw that there was not going to be something similar. So I moved into the maritime industry. So I started cruising, and that created the seed for something that I ended up later. Because of course, after working with the cruise ships, with the Carnival Corporation, and sailing for 4 years, then I came back to Europe. And I worked with one of the companies that makes the majority of the ingredients for food and the materials that exist around you, inside of you, the stuff that you use to, even for the makeup, the vitamins that you take and so on. And I ended up then being the global director of innovation for AkzoNobel. So AkzoNobel makes paints and all kinds of material that can cover devices. So one of the special materials was used for the boats that you see in this type of images here, where you see the boats of AkzoNobel. But what was I doing there with digital technology and with digital innovation? I mean, this is a race around the world. Yeah, it was the last race around the world, the Volvo Ocean Race. And with this team, what we did was digital innovation, precisely, with SAP. There, I had the opportunity to learn a few things about the human body. And you see, there's a Garmin watch, and there is a white box, which inside of this, there is a Raspberry Pi. And this was installed inside of boxes that were put inside these boats that did the tour of the world in a matter of months. Well, what we did is that basically we connected the Garmin watches, and here's the collection of the watches at some point. I have all the watches from the crew. These watches were taking at microseconds the heartbeat of the crew. And in this way, through an algorithm of artificial intelligence, through some phones, and you can see here the Raspberry Pi inside of this box, which is watertight, and the phones. And of course, there is a laptop, and these are the two guys that actually built it. And sorry, wait. These are the two guys that actually built the thing. At 4 in the morning, before the race around the world started, we were still welding parts in these boxes because it was necessary to make it watertight and to make it cooler. Well, basically, I discovered because of my ignorance, of course, doctors already know that a person that is fit, rested, and strong has a heart that is constantly changing the speed of the beat. So what do I mean? What do I mean with this? What I mean with this is, if your heart is too constant, it means that either you are tired, or you are low on energy, or you are not fit or stressed. That is very important. I mean, we always think that constant is what will keep you going. But our body actually is built in a way that if it is not constantly changing, will die. And that was very key in the moment that, of course, that you spoke about when I was diagnosed with multiple tumors and blockages in the arteries and all kind of stuff, precisely after finishing the project at AkzoNobel. Because I could have had the opportunity to go through traditional medicine, and probably at this time I would have had already 5 different surgeries if I was alive, because this was in 2018, yeah, in October 2018. And instead, I consulted 5 different doctors, and from all of them, the only thing I learned is that what they really needed was a change of life. So I changed everything. I even got divorced. I know it sounds like a joke, but it was really a radical change, and some of these changes helped me address some of the things that happened also during the pandemic, because I quit my job at AkzoNobel. I stopped being, the worldwide director, the big executive, and Mr. Innovation. I quit. I start a very radical diet that in 3 months, in 100 days, in 100 days, I lost 18 kilos. But that also melted the tumors away, because the body, being starved, had to eat out whatever was the tumor built with. And then the pandemic arrives in the next year. So basically, by the time the pandemic arrived, I was just beginning to feel better and beginning my recovery. So what did Massimo do during this recovery? I had to do something different, right? And this is precisely what I did, something completely different. So basically, me and my co-founder, we founded AlterContacts, which is a global think tank for sustainable development. It is a collaborative association of people who are not linked by any contract, and are basically people of all kinds of different disciplines who believe that the world can be better. This is not just the cliche of making the world a better place. Yeah, I don't believe in cliches. Usually using a cliche means that we haven't taken the time to think about it enough. And I use cliches when I speak, yes, of course, because we all do, right? But if you really want to do something, you have to act. So what happened during the pandemic is precisely as you were saying, many experts were not experts anymore. Myself, the predictions I had for the pandemics, they were all going bananas. Yeah, it was all wrong. So what did we do? We saw that we needed to speak with people, because what was lost, especially for the small entrepreneurs, was the capability to communicate. So we started communicating with our network. As you can see, I have a network which spans across the whole globe. And in that way, we started collaborating first with the European Union, with the Europe versus Virus hackathon. This was at the very beginning. And here, what we proposed was a different way for the governments to create different types of jobs for the people that was remaining without a job, and many tasks that were not automated. Because it's true, many people started speaking, oh, we need to go digital, we need to go digital. But let's remove a little bit the fluff. What did it mean for the majority of the entrepreneurs to go digital? It meant having a website. And for others, opening a shop online. Those who really went a little bit more then started doing digital marketing. And basically what they did, they hired somebody to do the digital marketing for them. So a half of the business consultants I know, and I know many because I have thousands and thousands of contacts, both on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, and many places. I literally know thousands of people. And a half of the business consultants I know became digital marketeers. Now the wave is changing again, because of course, everybody got digital marketing, everybody got websites, everybody got an online store. So at some point, we start doing something, right? We need to start doing something. So not happy with that, we went ahead and we registered an SDG action, an action for sustainable development goals in the United Nations. This is the official page of the United Nations, where it is registered, a lockdown economy. And we interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs from many different countries. We used United Nations volunteers for this. More than 150 volunteers collaborated. You can see we have in different languages, you know, South Korea, Colombia, the Netherlands, Germany. I mean, we have stories, real stories from real entrepreneurs who were saying exactly what was happening. They are not saying the typical thing that you would hear from the consultants and from the marketeer online, that they tell you, yeah, you need to do this and that. And it's always the typical formula. It's always the typical checklist to go digital. These people were speaking about the real problems they were having, how they were solving it. What was, you can call it strategy, but many of these people do not know what the word strategy means. These are family businesses, independent. We had shoe cleaners from Indonesia explaining us how we built this business. Yeah, the story of Rastono is probably one of the best because the guy understood that he needed to learn something new. He was studying at the university. He was studying business administration, yeah, in Indonesia. He was one of the few guys who had the luxury of being in a university and who had the luxury of having sports shoes, you know, tennis shoes, sports shoes, you know, Nike, Reebok, etc. Because the majority of people in Indonesia still use sandals. And guess what? They don't know how to clean them. So he went to a nearby island to go with somebody who knew how to clean sports shoes, came back to his place in Java and opened his shop, he and one of his friends, and he started cleaning shoes. Now Rastono is one of the, basically one of the famous shoe cleaner, and his business is booming in Indonesia. So this initiative prompted, of course, a lot of knowledge. And this knowledge, we have it consolidated thanks to the volunteers. This is the site of AlterContacts in reports per country. So we have reports from different countries, depending which, by the way, we are waiting for somebody to pick up Mexico because we have a whole series of interviews from Mexico. And we don't have yet a volunteer who does one of these reports in Mexico. Let me show you a little bit how these reports look like. Basically, it's text. Yeah, it's text. It's done in the McKinsey style. Let me see. Sometimes no, in this one there's no graphics, but some of them have also the graphics. And let me see. Maybe the one in the Philippines is a little bit more. Yeah, you know, it has the challenges and so on. Of course, here you can see the typical that we saw, the lack of online presence and knowledge in digital marketing. This is the situation. This was the situation in the Philippines during COVID. So if you're interested in the site of AlterContacts, you can see these reports. These reports have been delivered to the United Nations and are also some of them are already, some of the interviews are consolidated in ebooks that are available in Amazon. And then, of course, we have the case studies. As you can see, so what happened while everybody was thinking about digital marketing, about making websites, we got busy. Instead of sitting on our bottoms and just being online and doing webinars, we actually documented what was happening on the planet. And we even created a complete initiative on digital safety. Each one of these initiatives is registered in the United Nations. And we address different problems with each one. Yeah. So the Humanity Arcade, for example, to try to have a safe environment for children that, of course, during the pandemic, they were exposed to all kinds of garbage on the internet. Because let's be realistic, at the same time that the good businesses and the good entrepreneurs, they went digital, at the same time, a lot of garbage also increased. We have created now an initiative, which is an encyclopedia for sustainable living, where we have volunteers documenting what is the best way to eat so you can be sustainable with yourself. Because let me just remove this. So now you see me, right? Okay. It is easy to think, oh, we need to use less plastic. Oh, we need to save the animals. You You know, even the vegan movement, not the vegetarian, the vegan movement, you know, that they refuse to use anything that comes remotely connected with an animal because we are trying to do good for the animals. But none of these movements ever touches the fact that there is one sustainable development goals that is related to personal health, physical and mental. And the truth is that the more carbon dioxide you have in your body, or the more calories you consume, the more sick you're going to be. So the real way to be sustainable is not only eliminating the plastic, which is of course something that is needed. Of course, we should not kill the cow to eat the meat, because it's ridiculous in the 21st century that we still need to kill animals to eat, right? We are not cavemen. But we need to think about how we become sustainable in a systemic way, as seeing mankind as part of the overall system. And let me share something different that grew up from that, because, of course, there's a lot to share here. Okay, so this is an example of a system of systems. A system of systems this is a system for a business. Yeah, this is the example of what happens with a business and its surroundings. So let me get a little bit into details. Do you see my cursor? Just say yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, if we identify as the core system, this blue system here, as the business, or as the small company or a corporation or whatever, we know that, of course, you have the founders, the executives, and the CXOs, etc. But you also have the employees, the contractors, and volunteers that work on it, or any kind of people that is related either to the processes or the core system. It is very normal for people who are employed in a company to think that they do not have a responsibility and do not have a say in what the company is doing. That is completely false. This is similar to what Karen was saying about the martyr syndrome. You know, that it's very easy to blame something else or someone else for something that we are doing. We always have the choice to say no or to say yes to something. And we always have a choice to do things properly. So until we still do not solve to take responsibility for our action as employees, as contractors, as volunteers, or any people that is in charge of anything that is related to the supply chain of a company, the company will never be sustainable. It is not only about saving energy or removing the plastic. I'm sorry, but that's completely hypocritical. And it's equally hypocritical as, and now I take the notes that I was taking, when countries claim that they are striving for gender equality. Now, let me give you a little data about gender equality. Switzerland, yeah, Switzerland. I'm not talking other countries, sorry, that are considered third world or in development, etc. I'm talking Switzerland, which is supposed to be one of the most civilized countries in the world, yeah, where the United Nations have a place, where many humanitarian organizations have a place. You know that the first time that women were allowed to vote in Switzerland was in 1971. 51 years ago, to be precise, the 7th of February in 1971 was the first time that women were allowed to vote in Switzerland. Now, excuse me if I think that the majority of people who think that Switzerland is an advanced country are ignorant. Not only, let me give you another data about Switzerland itself. Of course, that was the first time that women were allowed to vote in a federal referendum. But each canton of Switzerland, which is basically every region of Switzerland, still had their own particular rules. So federally, the women were allowed to vote, but not in the cantons, not for the municipality. Yeah. It was until April 1991 when finally the last municipality of Switzerland allowed women to vote. This is 30 years ago. So everything you read about the World Economic Forum, which has been going on for the last 70 years or something like that in Switzerland, since Davos was a little village, that they speak about the gender equality and all that. Excuse me if I say it's bullshit. And I can say it because I've been there. And I have been in companies that present at the World Economic Forum. And I had the honor to present something at the United Nations last year, where we actually presented some real data of what is happening. And guess what? I'm gonna give you a little piece of good news. The entrepreneurs who actually made it happen during the pandemic, the majority were women. It was the time when women, basically they said, okay, I'm not going to listen to everything that is there. We have to get moving. We have to do something. And we saw the example of many women across the world in many countries that were capable to build a new company during the pandemic. They were capable to introduce new products. They were capable to create 100% women managed and women-led businesses. And at the same time, it was interesting to see that the majority of men were only trying to sell them stuff. Where they were trying to sell them consultancy, they were trying to sell them advice, they will try to coach them, you know. But in reality, these women, they were kicking ass. They were really doing things well. And thanks to that, many businesses actually were capable to go ahead. Many small businesses, many family businesses. You spoke about families. There is a transition now from families into tribes. It looks like in many places, especially the newer generations, but some of us that are from older generations were already doing that. We realize that families don't grow under the same roof, not necessarily, because you might have people who sympathize with you, or you can feel a closeness and who can help each other much better than even family members sometimes, just because they believe in the same thing. And the definition of tribe is precisely that. It's people who have the similar values or are joined by similar situations, right? It doesn't matter the genetic, because that would be a genotype. That would be a different thing. It is not. It would not be a tribe. And that is happening across. And this is also something that we have seen during the pandemic, that there were associations of people that were not standard, absolutely not standard. Actually, that's what happened with AlterContacts. That we have from A to Z, we have almost everything in the alphabet. We have an astrologer actually in the group of experts that we use. We have a zootechnist. Yeah, and so we really have the whole alphabet. Actually, we don't have X, but the majority of the other letters, yes, we do. So now that you have a view of how I think and the type of things I do, now you can go ahead with questions, because otherwise I spoke too much already.
Don't worry, Massimo. It is really, really interesting, all your journey and your experience. And by the way, for all the attendees, you can also write your questions in the chat. The chat is open if you have a question to Massimo. Well, Massimo, I hope that I don't get also too philosophical on this next question, but related with sustainability in general and related with the impact that an individual, a small group of people can have in this entire worldwide complex social system. One, because what we have seen with the pandemic, many of us may feel a little disappointed about the actual impact that one individual can have. And maybe we can say, well, maybe if I don't do anything, it doesn't matter, because the bureaucracy the complexity of the entire systems, it is at such a level that even if I don't do anything, it will go its way. And there is the other side, when someone may say, well, I may still think that I can change the world, but how am I going to change the world if the leaders are actually doing things? Maybe some of them are good, maybe some of them are bad, but they are doing some things, and I am just an individual, I am just a small business entrepreneur. So what would you advise to the people that may be thinking about that their impact can be too little or almost nothing?
And let me get back a little bit into systemic thinking here, because, okay, I'll start with myself, right? I'm just a person, right? If I help somebody in something once per day, in something, can be something stupid sometimes, you know, just to answer a question. Basically, in a year, I would have helped at least 300 people, right? Now imagine if everybody does that. You change the planet. That's how easy it is to change the planet. It is not about collecting tons of plastic from the ocean. I'm sorry if I go back to the plastic of the ocean, but I have seen what is the business that they are creating around that. And it's not about the plastic. If you go and analyze the business, not that. But how about we start collecting the garbage? Our own garbage. Yeah, and it's not about, maybe you do not need to separate the glass, the plastic, the organic, and etc. Because it's true, in some countries, there is no system, there is no infrastructure to take advantage of that separation. But at least put it in a nice bag and make it, and keep it clean. Don't throw it, you know, or throwing a cigarette on the floor seems to be a very small thing. But with a couple of billion smokers on the planet, if everybody smokes 1 cigarette per day, you have 2 billion cigarettes on the floor. You can fill 10 football stadiums with that amount of cigarettes. 10. And this is how one has to think, you know. Oh, can you blame the government for that? I don't think so. I don't think so. Can you blame the government for the idiot that is throwing the used coffee cup out of the window from the car? You cannot blame the government for that. Of course, you can say, yes, but the government could enforce a revision of the car. So we go back to treating people like in kindergarten, right? Yeah, if you do something bad, we're going to punish you. So that is insulting for me. Yes. I didn't grow this old to be punished. I grew this old at least to have the responsibility that I have around me. You know, that I take care of my area where I can have an impact. This would be sufficient. Of course, there will always be the corrupt politician and all that. But guess what? It's still people. It's still people. Their power ends when they die. And then they disappear. And all these things that you see in the news about, you know, people who wants to make wars and etc. is just a few who are doing big business. It has nothing to do with the freedom of people, with the human rights, with the... No, it's always business. It's always about money. So if you let go of that, by the way, I made it, since I got sick in October 2018, I do not watch the news. And believe me, I am smarter since then. The only thing I see when I want to know something, some fact, what I see is official reports from the government, official reports from scientific community, you know, research or things like that, that tell me how the things are. Yeah, not the lies that you see in the news. So the first thing, shut down the news. Yeah, turn off the stupid box. Yeah, the TV. Yeah, and start reading real stuff, and then you will discover that you can do things. You cannot blame the government for everything. You cannot blame history for everything. Especially not after the pandemic. The pandemic has an effect similar to a war. Everything has changed. We are in a moment of the world, and I think this is one of the questions that you had. We are in a moment of the world where intellectual information and intellectual work is not as valued as it was before. So sadly, for the consultant, for the independent consultants now is a very bad moment. Because the majority of the corporates that were previously hiring independent consultants, people like me, people like many that I know, are not hiring them anymore because they only hire from the big consultancy firm. So basically, we go back to the big five, yeah, the Deloitte, KPMG, etc. Because it's easier for them because of the COVID exposure and so on. They say, okay, there is only one point of contact, which is the big consulting companies. They have the expert and whatever. And everything related to strategy, related to sustainability, especially when we speak about governments and when we speak about corporations, is only related to marketing and business opportunities. Yeah. So actually, in many corporations, since last year, the position of sustainability directors or sustainability executives is in the marketing department. That says it all. That says it all.
Yes. And another thing, Massimo, because the time is flying also with you. And yes, but related, you talk about a lot about sustainability. Now, in terms of health and physical health, one of the things I started seeing since I was in my early 20s, I already had this lifestyle of taking care of myself. And I was seeing other colleagues, some other collaborators in the company that I worked when I was 20 something, that they didn't care much about health. And you know how is when we are in our 20s, that anything that looks like food, we eat it. That if we get to sleep 4 or 5 hours and we say it is okay, we can handle it. And we have some kind of not really sustainable way of living, lifestyle. So thanks for your experience with health. What would you advise not only to young professionals, but to all professionals that want to get maybe to their 60s, 70s, 80s, still strong, healthy, focused, happy, and being still able to do many things? What would you advise to them?
There are a few key elements that will allow you. You cannot predict how much you're going to live. That is a fact. But what you can do, you can influence the quality of life that you will have. Because it's true that, something can fall from a branch of a tree can fall and falls on your head and you're dead. Ta-da. Right? Or when you're old, at some point, one of the organs will stop working because the organs, they age at different speed depending on the lifestyle you got. But the lifestyle has a lot of impact. The first thing that everybody should do is stop using sweeteners. And I use the word sweeteners because it's not exactly about sugar. It's about the 58 different types of sugar that are used, starting with the typical crystallized sugar that was invented 5,000 years ago in India, all the way to the stevia that was invented in a company where I was working until 5 years ago. Does not matter the name. It is still sugar that you add. So let's put this very clear, because this is not a mystery, this is not magic, this is not esoterical. Because if you go to the Harvard Health pages, if you go to the big university studies, they will tell you exactly the same in different ways, maybe a little bit lighter than how I say it, but I say it a little bit stronger because I survived. And I do not eat any type of sweetener since 2018. Stevia, sucrose, etc. Oh, the aspartame, of course. The same company that invented stevia was the company that invented aspartame. Since we were never capable to prove that it wasn't bad for people, we sold the formula to the Chinese. So then the saccharosa, etc., all those types, xylitol, malitol, blah, blah, blah. Some of them are even derived from petrol, because you can make sugar out of everything. I mean, here I have a piece of wood. From a piece of wood, you can make xylitol. You know what they do with xylitol? They give it to eat to the bees, to the honeybees, because we take all the honey from the honeybees and they don't have food enough, and then they make water with xylitol. And they also put xylitol, and there's a big factory in Mexico of xylitol, by the way, which uses old wood to make sugar. Because you can make sugar out of everything, right? A dead body, you use a dead body, you can make sugar. Even plastic can become sugar. But the molecule of sugar, once it enters the body has to work to transform it and to make it a sugar that it can actually use. So one thing, oh, I'm not consuming sugar because I used a little bit of stevia, or I used a little bit of this other thing. Again, first of all, the reaction that the nervous system, when you taste sugar with your salivary glands and the taste on your tongue, your body will start acting as if it is eating sugar, no matter what kind of sugar you eat. Yeah, so your liver will start pumping, your pancreas will start pumping for the insulin, etc., etc. But then it doesn't know what to do with those molecules. And some of these molecules, they have an additional nitrogen, which is not part of the molecule of the normal fructose that we should consume, which is the sugar from honey. That's the one that we should consume. It's basically the only sugar that is 100% compatible with the human body, besides the sugar that is inside of the fruit, that is inside of the vegetables. The lactose is another sugar that many people can eat, many people are not. But you see, since all the food also has sugar, but it does not have it in the form of sugar that you can add as a crystal, it is a sugar that the body works to produce. That is the good sugar. So stop adding sugar to everything. If something says sugar in the label, throw it away. Throw it away. And the other thing that we have problems with is colorants, preservatives, the preservatives that they slow down the cellular functions. Then sadly, we cannot eat meat anymore, or any animal, because of what we feed the animal with. Meat is not bad. Fish is not bad. You know, I mean, the chicken is not bad. But if you feed the chicken with so many hormones, yeah, and that happens also with the fish, etc., that then you have to give the fish a lot of antibiotic, or the chicken or the cow. So the poor cow does not die because of the extra hormones you gave them. Those antibiotics and those hormones, you end up eating them. And they come inside of the fats. So basically, these are the reasons why everybody on the planet after a certain age either has diabetes or cholesterol. If you eliminate those two sources of problem, your life will be easier. Needless to say, alcohol is like liquid sugar. So,
oh, great. Great, thank you, Massimo. By the way, has anyone one question for our guest? Because our time is running up with our guest Massimo, and you know where to find him. AlterContacts. He brought us the page and the LinkedIn. I'm going to share also the information with you. He's looking for some volunteers here in Mexico. There's some work that still needs to be done here in Mexico. So if you want to help him out, please, I'm going to send you the information. So to reach out with him. And with that, Massimo, thank you very much for your time. Massimo is also one of our special guests, our sponsor for this project that we are doing, that I'm going to talk about a little bit in the following minutes. But Massimo, thank you very much. I don't know if you have any final message. What would you like to become when you grow up? That question
Oh,
that I ended up with.
That's
with
very
Karen.
easy. Now I don't know when I will grow up, but but I already have an extra adventure in sight. I'm not gonna say anything, but this adventure starts in March, and I do not know when it's going to finish. But I will keep posting. Around June, you will know what is that I am doing in this next growth.
Oh, that's incredible.
So,
That's
surprise.
incredible. No, that's incredible. Thank you very much, Massimo. Great, guys. We're going to spend just a little more minutes, and now I'm going to tell you a bit about what is SMI, what is the Sustainable Mayan InverTour, and that is the reason why we started to talk with these great guests, with these great speakers. I have my great co-founder here, Olga Enciso, which is also here as an attendee. Just if you want to say hi, Olga, now your mic is allowed. And just a quick story about this. We started in a startup bootcamp. I met Olga. I was the coach for the Latin America group in this startup bootcamp. I met Olga there. We were talking about the importance of when you integrate worlds, and these worlds means local entrepreneurs in Mexico and Latin America, and all the venture capitalists that exist out there, that exist in Silicon Valley, that exist in Miami, that exist in Europe and some other countries. And we were talking about how important it is to be able to build something that help local entrepreneurs to meet these guys. Because if you happen to grow in a place like a small city with no big infrastructure and so on, it is difficult for someone from that size to come here to know you and then to help you. So we need to build bridges between these two realities. And that's why we started talking about, and then the Sustainable Mayan InverTour came. But Olga, want to say hi?
Very much, Massimo, and also Karen, and for organizing this and being in the panel. It's just amazing to hear you both, Massimo. Muchas gracias. And you also know very well English besides Italian and Spanish. Wonderful. We are all global. And I think I see with Paulo the potential of Latin America, starting with Mexico. It's interesting to know Karen, she's Brazilian, but living in Europe. And you, Massimo, you live in Mexico, you feel Mexican at heart, you feel Latino. So we have incredible opportunities to bridge that, to bring the high technology with the wisdoms of the indigenous community civilizations. They are the stewards of those knowledges, and we need to reset what we have known in Silicon Valley. We just need to reset, and we can take it to the rest of the world with you, Massimo, with you, Karen, and Paulo. Gracias, Paulo.
Thank you, Olga. And by the way, just a few minutes about what we are doing with the Sustainable Mayan InverTour. And what we have seen here in Mexico, in Latin America, and countries related with our same reality, it is that when you talk about university students who want to become entrepreneurs, mostly 95% of them lack of adequate opportunities and conditions. Why? Mostly because they didn't happen to have to be born or to be studying the right place with the right parents in terms of socioeconomical reality and some other aspects that happen to help a lot for young entrepreneurs. So the other 5% are the ones who have these great opportunities, the business incubators and the big ones, because it is not only about having a business incubator. You need to have the best business incubator with the best consultants, with the best advisors, with the people that has the money and so on. And so if you sometimes are hearing now that, yes, in Latin America, we have more unicorns, we have more great entrepreneurs that are changing the world. but most of the time, they are coming from the same places, from the same universities, from the same accelerators or business incubators, and from the same programs. So there is this huge amount of young, talented, potential entrepreneurs that doesn't have access to the right opportunities. So what we are doing with this, it is that we are saying, well, if you happen to be in the right side of the right picture that appears on the screen, and if you live on the same reality you are watching every day, which is your big buildings, your big projects, the big people from the places you have always worked with, then you are going to see the same reality. Then, when you think about social responsibility, you may think you go to the other place and you read about some people who need help, you read about some social entrepreneurs, but mostly you don't get the opportunity to be with them and to be really learning from them, where they are working, where about their context, about the things that are happening right in their context. So what we are saying is, well, we need to make a bridge, to build a bridge between these two worlds. Because if you get to, for some venture capitalist, to know a local entrepreneur, they're not going to have the same language. The right words are not going to be used to present their pitch or their project. They're not going to understand how the indicators they are seeing, the problems they are seeing. So we are saying we need to build this bridge. And the other thing we need to build, it is to make this shift of a traditional thinking into more of a systems thinking. So what we were talking about, what we were thinking about this is to build the sustainable by Mayan InverTour, which is to make these two worlds come together in one place, in one great place, which is the Riviera Maya, where Cancun is here in Mexico, and to be able to get them to know each other. Because for these 95% of young entrepreneurs that are looking forward to have some great opportunities, they are not the one that need like $1 million to thrive, or a $500,000 to be able for a seed or a pre-seed investment. No, people here from this 95% can do amazing things with just a bit of money, with just a little support, but the right support. So we are building also the right investment tool for these guys to thrive. So what we are working to for this year, it is to different profiles in global executives, people who is thinking like Massimo, like Karen, like us, that have a different view about the world, that just don't we don't want just to be the next super famous, rich, and super successful human beings in the cemetery. We don't understand what is the point of that. We want to make a real impact. We want to make this little change in a positive way for the world. And as Massimo said, if we are able to help one at a time, then we are going to be able to help a lot of people during several months or during several years. So different profiles, global leaders concurring in an enriched environment, because we are saying, you know, with all these silos, with all this divided society, each one of us is working in the same echo chamber, in the same reality, talking with the same people. So we need to get these global leaders out of their traditional way of thinking and putting them in an enriched environment, to disconnect them from their social media and their networks and the telephones, and say, please be here now. And the way we're going to do that is to put together a certain amount of activities related with culture, with nature, with social innovation, because the Riviera Maya is amazing. It is an amazing place. Related also with education, with science, with technology, because we have a partner, the Institute of Technology of Felipe Carrillo Puerto, which is part of Mexico National Institute of Technology here in Mexico. And also for having history, culture, art, knowing amazing places, and a demo day with local and national entrepreneurs. Obviously on sustainability, on food tech, on art and culture, on edtech, and software and apps. So what we are going to work with is also a cultural closing ceremony. Well, our co-founders, Olga, I already introduced her to you. She's based in San Jose, California. She's just in Silicon Valley. I am based here in Mexico, in León, Guanajuato. And we are getting to know more people. More people are joining. We have some great partners and sponsors for this project, the National Institute of Technology of Mexico, a network of NGOs and foundations based here in Mexico, the state government of Quintana Roo, which has been helping us a lot. And what we are going to do, it is that we are going to invite anyone who wants to join us to live this experience to a retreat by mid-2022. By mid this year, we are going to send you the information for a retreat. Obviously, we need to heal. We need to heal for many, many things that have been happening because of this pandemic. So we need to heal. We need to develop new ideas. We need to develop new connections, like the people that we have been talking to during this session. Different people, different vision, different ideas with a different mindset to be sustainable since the individual, your mind, your groups, and to think about different projects. And for the end of this year, we are going to do a full event with the demo day for having also some entrepreneurs there. So it is an ambitious project. It is a big project. And any of you who is interested in knowing more about this, please, there is the email. I'm going also to write to all of you to have your information, to give you the information about Karen and about Massimo. And then I'm going to stop presenting. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for your attendance. This session has been recorded. I'm going to post it later on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. I'm going to post it on different social media platforms that we use. And well, guys, I hope this session has been of value for all of you. And I don't know, Massimo, you're still there. Olga, if you have any last words for our attendees, go ahead.
We are still here. We are still here and looking forward, because I think is an excellent initiative, the initiative that you started. That's why I have been, of course, standing by, try to support with whatever we can. And who knows, maybe actually we'll see each other mid-year down there.
Yes.
In the Riviera Maya. I'm coming from spending actually 1 month in Cozumel. And I was very pleased to see that there are good efforts to maintain the nature and maintain the coral reef there. So it's very, very pleasant to see that some organizations are really working towards to keep the nature. And yeah, good initiative. Keep moving forward.
Great, thank you, Massimo. By the way, talking about tribes, look, we have here a small tribe of people in Amsterdam, in San Jose, California, in Mexico, and in Belgium. And with all attendees, that is the power of internet and of these digital tools to form worldwide tribes. Olga? I think we cannot hear you, Olga.
We look forward to seeing you, and thank you so much. Bienvenidos para SMI.
Thank you. Well, guys, bye-bye. Have a great rest of the day. Good evening there in Europe. Good morning here in Mexico and Latin America. Bye-bye, guys.